In this video tutorial, you're going to learn how I created this 3D ball simulation VFX animation inside Blender. Let's get to it.
Okay, obviously you're going to need a footage for this. So we're going to use this footage. This video I made in our gym. So this is what we're going to use. First of all, we're going to track it. By tracking it, we're going to import it to After Effects. We're going to import it here. Make sure the frame rates are matching by right clicking on it, going to the properties. Under details, you're going to see the frame rate of the video, which is 30 frames per second. Now go back to After Effects, click on composition settings and set the frame rate to 30 frames per second. So after that, you're going to bring it down into this composition. So this is the footage, scrub through it like this, and then under this window you're going to use track camera because we need to track this footage. So drag the track camera onto this video and it's going to be like this. After Effects is going to track the camera and solve the camera. So after that, this is what you're going to get. So after that, you're going to highlight a certain portion of the floor and right click on it. You're going to see create solid and camera here. That's what you're going to use. So after creating that, this is what you're going to see: the plane and then a 3D tracker camera. So we're going to zoom in to make sure the plane is sticking perfectly to the floor. That's very, very important. Okay, it's very perfect. So that's it for now. We're going to head over to Blender and continue from there. But in Blender now, we're going to delete everything here except the cube. We're going to have mercy on the cube today. So the add-on we're going to use to import these from After Effects is called AE to Blend. We're going to link it in the description. Go to the preferences and make sure you installed it well and make sure this box is ticked. The add-on is going to appear here. If it's not appearing, that means you need to stretch this out. Or if it's nowhere to be found there, click T and it's going to appear. So we go to After Effects, under the 3D camera, transform, copy, position and orientation. Come here, create camera, it's pasted. Go back to After Effects, select the plane, under the transform, copy the first 4 transforms. Click on create plane and it's going to appear here. See it here. It's very large, but we're going to fix that soon. We are dealing with a vertical video here. Let's fix the aspect ratio. So we go over to here and switch these numbers. Set the frame rate to 30 frames per second and the end frame to 422. That's the number of frames of the footage we are going to use. So you click here to select the camera. Come to the camera settings, click background images, add image, movie clip, locate the video and add it here. Set to fit. Rotation 90, scale 1.777778. That number was gotten from maths. Opacity high. Double click on the 3D camera, copy the focal length, change this to vertically and note the film size 64. So you come over here, focal length, paste it on the camera, change this to 64. Now we're going to play the video. The plane is sticking to the floor, but it's gliding a bit and we're going to fix it now. Select the camera transforms and zoom into this place. You notice the keyframe started from frame 0, whereas our footage started from frame 1. So we're going to shift it by 1 frame by clicking G. Now, everything is okay. The next thing we're going to do is to handle the scaling. If you notice, our cube is very tiny over here. We're going to use it to arrange the scaling of the whole environment. So what we're going to do is select camera transforms and hold Ctrl and select plane transform. Make sure plane transform is the one on yellow. Ctrl P to parent it, object. Set the pivot point to 3D cursor and double click on this icon to select everything in the hierarchy. This only works on Blender 4.1. If you're using any version of Blender that is lower than this, right click here and go to select hierarchy. Now we're going to scale this down until we are satisfied. And that is it. Next, we're going to fix the axis. Let's make this line align with the floor. So you select plane transforms, 7 to go to top view. Hide the cube for now. Select the plane transform and rotate on Z axis. You're going to eyeball it until you feel it's following the axis very well. Zoom in and make sure it's on the straight line. That's fair enough. So this is it.
To get the best composited VFX animation, try to replicate the environment as closely as possible, most especially those places that are going to interact with the object and also cast or catch shadows.
So this is not a modeling tutorial. That means we're not going to go in depth on how I created the models of this room, but it's very simple. By just simple operations like adding a plane, going to edit mode by clicking tab, switching to X-ray view. Number 2 for edge select, you can just drag this. And just next thing is to add loop cuts. Ctrl R, drag this here, drag this here, here. Extrusions, E on the y-axis, this on the y-axis, like this to go in, and then extrude again on the z-axis. So it's that simple. So we're not going to go in depth to this one, but it's very important to pay close attention to this. The more detailed it is, the better the simulation and the shadow catching. So I already have the props prepared. So this is it. This is it. Make sure you model the props in the gym, especially the ones that are going to collide the ball simulation and also catch shadows. And to be able to see through the room from outside, make sure you activate backface culling. This is it. And after everything, add them to a collection. It's very important. This is the collection name, gym props. We're going to use it later for view layers. After getting the models done, the next step to achieving the best level of realism is to project the images of these walls and the floors on these models for proper light bounces and accurate shadow catching. If your main objects are very reflective, it will also help in casting real reflections on them. It really makes a lot of difference. Okay, we're in the shading tab now. Let's project the image of these walls onto this model. First of all, I select this particular model and then add 2 material slots to it. First one is floor. The second one is walls. So now this is the floor material. Next, we're going to isolate the walls from this floor material. So select the walls, select edit mode, go to wireframe mode. We're going to select everything here except the floors. So we're going to do it like this. So the walls are selected. We're going to hit assign. That's going to assign it here. To check if it worked well, you're going to hit select and the walls will be selected. Select the floor and hit select. Only the floor is going to be selected. Next, we're going to add the bathroom, which is this compartment here. So we'll go to top view. Let's add the bathroom material. Come to top view and hit assign. It's going to be assigned to that. Okay, now we have the walls and the floor. Now let's start the projection. The best approach to this is to look for a particular portion of the footage that has much more of the floors on it. So for the floors, we're going to use frame 380 here. That's what we're going to use to project it. So next, click on this and Ctrl T. Make sure no wrangler is enabled. Go to open. So you're going to select the image of the frame 380. You can take snapshots of the video, but me, I rendered each particular frame of the video in a separate folder. So this is frame 380. Now let's go to material preview. It's sticking well. Probably yours is not going to stick like this. So what we're going to do is go to UV editing, click on the camera view, select everything and hit U, project from view, and it's going to work. This is it. Now come down to the image, under repeat, select mirror. So the floor is going to be like this. If you notice, the floor is a bit too bright, so we're going to increase the roughness to something like 0.88 and then add RGB curve and bring it down a bit. Okay, this is best matched to the footage. Next, you're going to handle the walls. Select the walls, go to the camera view I'm going to use frame 210 for this because I'm going to project this in batches. I'm going to project the right wall and then the left wall. I'm going to teach you how it's going to be done now. So here in frame 210, click Ctrl T. Once it's open, it's going to be like this. And if you notice very well, it's not aligning well with the view. So we're going to do what we're going to do, which is going to UV editing. Instead of selecting everything now, what we're going to do is to select only the walls. Click out here and then under here you hit select. It's going to select only the walls. You project from view. So when you go back to shading, this is going to align very well. So because we're going to handle another material projection on this particular side of the wall, we're going to add another material, walls left. I'm going to use frame 30 for this projection because it's going to have more details from this particular side of the walls. So we're going to repeat the same process. After selecting the image, nothing is going to happen because we have not assigned any vertices to this particular material, wall left. So that's what we're going to do now. Go to edit mode. We're going to box select this view inside this camera. After selecting the vertices, you notice that the floor and the bathroom is also part of the selection. So we're going to remove it from our selection. So how we're going to do that is click on floor, deselect, and click on bathroom, deselect. So we're going to have only this view here, and not the bathroom nor the floor. We'll click on wall left and then hit assign. It's going to assign this image to only the selected areas. So now we come to UV editing, U, project from view. Select wall left and come down to repeat mirror. So this is it. It doesn't really need to be 100% perfect. You just need the accurate colors for a good shadow catching. Let's fix the bathroom. This is the color I use. I'm going to reduce the roughness because that's a tiled wall. So this is it. This is how the different parts of the rooms are being projected. The same method was used to project the materials on these gym props here. So let's get to the modeling of the balls. Put your 3D cursor over here. Shift A, icosphere. Scale it down to the preferred size. I scale it down to something like this and make sure you apply the scale. It's very, very important for simulations. I'm going to duplicate it now. First of all, get to wireframe mode. Shift D, X, Shift R to repeat the operations. Okay. Select everything and add to a collection. M, move to new collection. Now selected everything, so going to duplicate it again on this axis. Shift D, Y, Shift R to repeat operation. Now the board is like this. So to select everything, double click on this collection and it's going to select everything here. I'm on the Y axis. Shift D, Z, take it up a bit, then Shift R is going to repeat the duplication. So this amount is enough for now. After modeling the balls, let's get to the simulation. Select one ball here and go to rigid body. Click on rigid body, active, mass 0.5, under shape, select sphere. So now we're going to copy every data in this ball into all the balls in this collection. So how we're going to do that is to double click on this collection icon and make sure that particular ball is still yellow. That means if it's not yellow, make sure it's the last thing selected for it to be yellow. Now come over here, object, rigid body, copy from active. Then after that, every ball here is going to have the same rigid body. That's it. I lifted the balls up because I wanted it to fall. So I added this model to guide the balls to fall well. So this is it. After running the simulation and you're happy with the animation, you come over to scene under rigid body world and you bake it. And make sure the end frame is equivalent to the number of frames you want the animation to run. So for my own case, I set it to 400 and then hit bake. Next thing, I added this model here and I animated it to push these balls forward after falling. So I came here under physics and added a passive rigid body type to it, and then selected animated and convex hull. So after setting up the simulations very well, this is how it's going to be. If you notice, this cylinder is pushing the balls out. So from this view, this is how it is. This is it. Our simulation is working very well. Let's get to the ball material. I used a very simple node tree here. This is the material node I used. Okay, now let's get to the lighting of the room. I had to replicate the lighting of this room as closely as possible. I took a few pictures to know the exact point the lights are placed in the room. So after placing the lights, this is what I got. Now let's head to the render settings. Make sure this is on cycles and GPU compute. This is the render view of our CGI gym.
Another aspect of realistic VFX that I've noticed a lot of people pay less attention to is reflections. Notice that there is a mirror on the wall. We're going to make it reflect the balls now with render passes.
So I added the mirror plane at this exact point. This is it. And in order to block these walls from showing in the mirror, I had to select the walls and disable the glossy rear visibility of the walls. So the wall is not going to show in the mirror. And this is the material of the mirror. This is it. Perfect mirror material. So now what we're going to do now is to know the exact render pass that is going to allow us see only the balls in this particular mirror. Only the balls. We're going to use it later for compositing. We're going to drag this here to bring the balls out. We're going to play with some render passes to know what's going to isolate only the balls to show in the mirror. First of all, we're going to set all this environment into shadow catchers. So how we're going to do that is come here, select each environment, come under here, shadow catcher. It's going to be like this. Then go to this render settings, set the film to transparent. So we're going to really have a transparent look from this. So you're going to set everything in this environment to shadow catcher. So after setting everything to shadow catcher, this is how it's going to look, because we need our balls and then the shadows. So now we're going to get the particular render pass for these balls alone. So come over here, render pass combined. You're going to deal with these three glossy because we are actually working on a reflective material. So click glossy direct, and that is not it. This is not what we want. Check glossy indirect. Boom. This is it. This is what we want. We want only the balls to show here. Now we're going to handle this with view layers. So now I arrange the project in 3 view layers. That is view layer, that's the main view layer, reflection, and then shadows. We need this for extra control in the compositing because we're going to stack this on top of each other to get the perfect composite. So now let me run through the view layers one after the other. So we are in the main view layer. When we go to render mode, this is it. So what we did in this layer is we disabled the reflection because we don't need it here. We need only the balls here. And then we activated this indirect only filter. So we deactivated reflection in this view layer. So let's go to shadow. We have only the shadows here. So in this particular view layer, I activated the lights to indirect only, balls to indirect, and reflection to indirect, and left the gym props because the gym props are all shadow catchers, all of them. So I left it here in this particular view layer. So in the reflection view layer, that's where we now applied everything to be indirect only, and then left the reflection to work like this. And if you can see, it's only the balls that are showing in the reflection of the mirror. So now remember when we're playing with the mirror on the view layer, we picked glossy indirect as the render pass that's going to isolate only the balls in this mirror. Go to view layer, and here click on glossy indirect. We're going to use it for the compositing. So that's all with this. Let's head now to the compositing. So we are in compositing now. We're going to stack these layers in this order: the footage, the shadow, the reflection, and then the render. So this is my node. I'm going to walk you through how I stacked everything. So I started with the footage here, and then I mixed it with the shadow with an alpha over node. You can switch the layers from here. I'm using the shadow now, the shadow layer. pass the image through a blur node, and this is how it's going to look. So after that, I mixed it with a softer shadow. I used another blur node to mix it again with an alpha over node. So this is the mixture of the two shadows. So now the next is the reflection. This is the reflection node. This is it here. I passed the glossy indirect. This is the main thing we need here, the glossy indirect, and not the image. The glossy indirect is going to come out like this. So this hole here is from this mask. I use the mask because if you notice, the mirror is broken. Look at the mirror is broken. So I don't want the reflection to show in the broken part of the mirror. So I use max here. So I blurred it a bit. Then I use screen to mix it together. After that, finally, we now mix it with the main render, which is this. This is the render node here, and I overlaid it with ambient occlusion. So this is where I pass the ambient occlusion. So that's it. I use it with the alpha over node, and this is the final render. Before compositing, it's very, very important to render a particular frame. I worked here with frame 60. So render a frame so that the compositing is going to work. Go to render settings. Make sure under film here is transparent, and under performance you have view styling and persistent data. Then under color management, I'm using AGX. So go to the output tab. In the file formats, I'm using OpenEXR multi-layer because I still want to have control over it even after the rendering. So that is it.
So there you have it. That's step-by-step process I used to create this eye-catching 3D simulation animation. If you found this tutorial helpful or learned something new, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more VFX breakdowns, tips and tricks, and animation in general, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you will not miss any future updates. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next tutorial. Peace.